Hi there, Ron Schara here for Star Bank. If you're putting your money into mega banks down the street, who knows where that money's being used? Bank locally. Keep your money local with a community bank that actually cares about you, your family, your business, and your goals. Check out the bank we use at Minnesota Bound. Try Minnesota's own Star Bank. You can find them online at starbank.net. When you call Star Bank, you actually hear a real living person answering the phone. Star Bank has 10 convenient locations around Minnesota to serve you and all the mobile banking products that you need to manage your money. Check out all that Star Bank has to offer at starbank.net.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories. I'm Laura Schara, your host for today, and I have an exciting guest coming up. We're talking about wild game cooking, ladies and gentlemen. But before I introduce her, I want to thank some of our sponsors. We have a new sponsor, Minnesota Propane. Of course, we also have the Minnesota DNR, Connecticut Water, and Star Bank. So my next guest, Laurie Crowell, is the owner and founder of Golden Fig Fine Foods. And I found Laurie years ago with my passion for cooking. And the reason being is she is the spice queen of Minnesota. And Laurie, welcome to the Minnesota Bound podcast.
Hello, Miss Laura. Thank you.
And I was just chatting with you that we've been working now, we've worked off and on together for, it has to be almost 10 years now. How long have you
for sure.
The Golden Fig Fine Foods? It's been around for quite a while in St. Paul, yes?
Yeah, so it's one of those things it's interesting because I think a lot of people don't know the full history on. I've actually been making and blending the spices it'll be 25 years this year.
Wow.
And I know it's crazy. I think I was 23 or 24 when I started doing the spices and the vinegars, and then 15 years ago is when I opened the store. So 2021, I have a lot of big anniversaries this year.
Oh my goodness. And I love it. And rightfully so, because your spices are amazing. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. And just so people have an understanding of what your store has. So you obviously batch and produce your own spices, but you have a lot of really fun products in your store.
We do. So I'll say it's the one location that you can get all 140 Golden Fig made products, but we're a full grocery and 100% of what we sell is American made. So the cast iron pans are hand forged in Charleston. The wild rice is hand harvested and wood parched in northern Minnesota. We know where everything comes from and we know every person we buy from. And I feel like it's such an important thing to be thinking about when you're buying food that you're feeding your family.
Absolutely. I love that all your stuff is locally made. And how I fell in love with one of your spices in particular. That was the first one that I had that brought me to your store. And I have since have purchased gifts of spices from your company, but it's the Sel de Cuisine. Is that how you say it?
Sel de Cuisine, yes.
Yeah.
And I'll say that the Sel de Cuisine was literally the first spice blend I made up.
Was it really?
It really was. And as a 24-year-old, Sel de Cuisine sounded so fancy, but now I realize you should name products things that people don't have to worry about how to say it.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. I definitely have had a hard time saying it, but it tastes so good. I have given that as gifts so many times. And just explain to everybody what's in this spice blend, because it literally is amazing.
So it's a coarser seasoned salt, basically. It's a coarser salt we use, and we add a whole bunch of different herbs and spices. And it's basically the idea, anywhere you would use salt or pepper, you can use the Sel de Cuisine. You just use less because it has a ton of flavor as well as saltiness. So it's amazing. It's great sprinkled on roasted vegetables. It's delicious rubbed on anything before you stick it in the oven to roast it. It's super all purpose. It's great on fresh mozzarella and tomatoes. I don't know anyone that doesn't love the Sel de Cuisine.
I think one of the little secrets about it has a tiny bit of cinnamon in there.
You're right. It does.
Right? And does it have a little bit of rosemary? Is that another thing that I'm tasting in there?
It does, and a little chili pepper. And it's funny, the cinnamon, I think, it's such an American thing that cinnamon is saved for sweets and for baked goods, but in other foods around the world, cinnamon is a savory component. So I feel like it kind of throws our taste buds for a little, whoa, what was that? Every time you use it, because it doesn't taste cinnamony like a cinnamon roll. It's just that little, it pokes your taste buds like, hey, look at this.
It totally does. I have used that so many times, like you said, on roasted vegetables, on roasted squash, on chicken, on pheasant. I mean, I've used it all the time. I think I didn't realize that was your first spice that you ever created.
Yes.
But
We
so
literally ship it all over the world. And it's funny, it was a lucky first guess.
oh my gosh, that's amazing. What I really want, our audience to understand, especially for our, cooks and chefs and wild game cooks out there, is that, spices are the key to really good flavor and profiles in cooking. And many
Absolutely.
people, kind of aimlessly grab spices, from the grocery store or whatever. But most importantly, many people leave them in their cabinets for like 2-3 years thinking that they're just fine. And
Right.
not all spices, first, are created equal. And B, there is a definite shelf life for spices.
Oh, for sure. One of the things I'll say I always want people to keep in mind is a lot of spices in the big grocery stores are from really big companies, which have made those spices en masse, and they've probably been sitting on pallets in warehouses getting ready to be shipped out for sometimes a year before it even gets to the grocery store. So it's one of the reasons it's so important to find a smaller company that are blending and bottling things on a more frequent basis, because you don't really want to pick something up in the grocery store and when you get home, have it already be a year old. You want it to be more freshly blended.
And that is the game changer right there, is the fact that it's freshly blended, and the flavors that come out from your spices, I would say, are tenfold what it is from spices that have been sitting around for a long time.
I absolutely agree. And you never need a bunch of spices or super expensive spices. Just simple ones that are fresh is always really the best plan.
And how often are you batching your spices locally?
Oh my gosh, we literally, Liz at our kitchen makes them every single week. Like if someone places an order, it goes into the production and she blends and bottles it and labels it and boxes it and we ship it out. Like it's one of the reasons we don't necessarily have desires of like taking over the world and having everyone have a golden fig spice in their cupboard, because we really like being smaller sized so we can make it so frequently and it can always be super fresh. Like I aspire to not be the big company that's mass producing. Like I love that someone is literally blending and bottling things every single day.
It's almost like a winery, but different, like here.
Yeah.
There's so much pride and that goes behind the blends of spices. And before we get to this, I want to talk about some of your super unique creations of spices that you have in your store, because your lineup, I have to say, is incredible. But before we get to that, I just want to thank one of our sponsors, the Minnesota DNR. Minnesota's wildlife management areas are a vast array of lands all across Minnesota. We know that. I don't know if you know that there's approximately 1,400 wildlife management areas that are important to, of course, to protecting wildlife and Minnesota's outdoor recreation opportunities. And to find out more about Minnesota wildlife management areas, you can go to www.mndnr.gov/WMAS. And also, I have to tell you that I am extremely picky, not only with my spices, Laurie, but also with my drinking water. I have the reverse osmosis drinking system from Connecticut Water, and I love it. I've been drinking Connecticut water for a long time. My parents have it in their kitchen, the cabin, etc. It takes out all the contaminants in the water. It removes chlorine, super important. And it also, of course, tastes great. And when we use Connecticut water, that means we use less plastic water bottles. Also a definite bonus for our environment. And for more information, you can visit Connecticut.com to find a dealer near you. All right, back to cooking. So let's chat about some of the amazing blends that you have. And, specifically, you have so many, but specifically for wild game cooking, I know you have a couple of wild game rubs and spices that are specifically for wild game. Do you have some favorites in the lineup?
Well, I'll say we have a few that I now find myself using, even if I'm doing something like chicken, or something like beef. I use, we have this prairie chili seasoning that's great, and it has smoky paprika, and it's geared for bison, or it's geared for bear. It's geared for like heartier big meats that you would slow cook and make into a chili with beans. But it's pretty translatable, and it's one of my favorites. I think sometimes when you seek out products that are geared towards game, that has a big flavor on its own, so you sometimes kind of want to have a big kick of flavor too, it translates into a good use for other products.
Yes, for sure. And one of my favorite ingredients ever is smoked paprika. I think
Oh my gosh, I love it. I agree.
it adds, I don't know what it does, but it's like, I even put it on when I'm, steaming spinach. I put smoked paprika on that.
Ooh, yum.
It sounds weird, but it's really good. It's just, I love
Sounds
the
good.
flavor. Another one of my favorites of yours, which I think is awesome for wild game, venison, elk, etc., is your smoked sea salt.
Oh yeah.
That is
That
incredible.
one is a good one, and we specifically keep it a little coarser grain, which I kind of like, because I have a friend that will brine pheasant, and then when he goes to cook it, he rubs it in the smoked salt and then puts it on the smoker, and it's that thing that the salt kind of melts in the process, so it makes like this yummy, smoky, salty glaze on it almost. It's so delicious.
Oh, that sounds so good. One of the tricks that I've been doing lately was a tip that was given to me by actually a neighbor, was to, with either venison or elk or steak, whatever, is to salt. Like always use that smoked sea salt, and I salt it at least 24, even 48 hours before you grill it or cook it, and only salt, just the smoked salt. I don't know what it is about letting it sit there for 24, 48 hours, but it is so good when you cook
Yum.
it. It's
I'll have to try that.
it. And it's almost kind of like a little brine on its own when it just sits there. And I've been doing that a lot lately, and I seem to think it works fantastic. And I've been using ground turkey or something if I'm using, cooking.
Yum. Yeah, it sounds delicious. And there's honestly something to be said for a salt that's actually smoked versus a salt that has a smoke flavoring added to it. And I think you can tell that difference in what you're putting it on.
Absolutely. And so you physically smoke that sea salt.
It's slow smoked with alder wood in the smoker. So yes, it is not like a smoke flavoring added to it. And it's like a 24 to 36 hour process, just depending on the weather. And yeah, it's delicious, and it tastes as such, right? You can tell when things are well done.
Totally. And it just goes back to my phrase, not all spices are created equal. If you are physically smoking salt,
Yeah.
that is definitely an extra step
Yeah.
to creating a spectacular product. And I just don't think people realize how important it is with, how small batch and the process of your spices, and how that actually comes back in flavor on the, after you cook it is underestimated in my opinion. Do you have anything for walleye? A lot of people obviously do the shore lunch and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm someone who's really particular about my health and, the food that I eat being really clean. And so I just like to use spices on walleye versus any sort of batter or deep frying. Do you have anything that you like on walleye that's really good?
So we have one that is called Wild River Herbs, and it's specifically geared towards that. Whatever you're pulling out of the river is going to be a good companion for this one. And it is tarragon, and it has some lemon, and it has a little basil, and it just has a nice flavor to it. And I agree. I'm definitely more for a saute it with some lemon juice and fresh herbs and just a little dab of butter or olive oil. And I feel like you taste the fish more then versus a breading.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely my favorite way to cook it. And one little family trick that we have done in the past is rubbing, the walleye down with olive oil and taking a brown paper bag and actually soaking that in olive oil. And you put the brown paper bag on top of the grill and place the walleye fillet on top of that and just cook it or grill it as is. And it's interesting. It just has a really good flavor to it. And of course, you want to make sure you're using just clean brown paper, nothing that's, with ink or print on it. That would not be good. But it actually has a really unique flavor to it. And again, using, your smoked sea salt or some other, herb combination, it's really, really delicious and, a little bit healthier version than deep fried. Not that anything's wrong with the deep fried. We all love that. It's so good. again, alternatives. You don't want to be eating that constantly, so it's a nice alternative.
And it sounds really fresh. I feel like that sounds like a really fresh way of doing it.
Yes, for sure. I want to chat with you about brining coming up here in just a second, just because brining is, key, especially with wild game cooking and the low fat content of wild game. And I know you have some unique brines in your grouping of spices. But before we get to that, I don't know if you know this, but according to the Environmental Protection Agency, propane is almost 3 times more efficient than grid electricity. I don't know. I didn't know that before learning about propane. And we all care about our planet, so let's do our part to use energy efficiently. We can reduce our environmental footprint by, you can heat your homes, your cabin, water, your businesses, all with propane. It's the right energy right now. For more information, you can go to propane.com, and it's propane, clean American energy. All right, Laurie, let's talk about brining and the importance of brining wild game. And what does brining really do for flavor profiles of food?
I feel like brining is a magical trick that should be used by all. I mean, it's that thing of it soaks, especially with game. I feel like it kind of tenderizes it a little bit because you have a little bit leaner product because it was out running around versus standing around on a farm somewhere. And I just feel like that salt kind of helps soften things up, and then just brining it, it makes such a difference. Even if it's a 2-hour brine, if you don't have time to brine it overnight, like you can on some bigger pieces of meat, like just a couple hours will make a lot of difference in many cases.
It makes a huge, huge difference. And that's another thing that's underestimated by people is A, how easy it is to brine. Mm-hmm. And 2, how much it makes a major impact on the flavor profile of wild game specifically. And, with a lot of people understand, brining birds, et cetera, but you can also brine venison and other, red meats too, right?
For sure. And again, it's that leanness factor. I feel like the key really is like if you're choosing things to brine, what seems like it would go with it. Like if you're brining venison, you've got the kosher salt, and then you maybe have some juniper berries, and you can put in some peppercorns, and those things seem like they'd be delicious with venison, and let it brine. The key is always rinse it. And when you think you've rinsed it enough, rinse it for another 5 minutes, because you don't want it to be salty. But that salt really has tenderized. A lot of times, whatever you're brining will pick up a little bit of moisture. So it ends up cooking a little more quickly because water conducts that heat a little more quickly than not. It also, I think, makes whatever you're cooking have a little forgiveness if you overcook it a little. I think a lot of times with cooking game, that to me is usually the biggest, most frequent mistake that people have is they overcook it. Like, you brine it, rinse it. Just the rinsing is so key. And then you're going to cook it in, the overcooking is such, it continues to cook even after you take it out of the oven or off of the stovetop or off of the grill. So just taking it off even a few minutes before you really thought you should, and cover it with some foil and let it rest for a good 10 or 15 minutes. And it finishes cooking gently, and then it's not overcooked. And I feel like that to me is always such a good key for success is don't overcook it, especially with game.
Yes, and that's absolutely right, is that it continues to cook once you pull it off the grill or out of the oven or whatever. And I'd prefer to undercook it and kind of realize that after I've even had it off resting and kind of have to maybe throw it back on there for a minute or two. But totally. Undercooking is better than overcooking with wild game, hands down.
It's true. You can always cook it a little more, but you can't take it back.
No, you can't. And, interestingly, with the brining situation, I recently was in Park City, Utah for New Year's, and we had a small dinner, and we were at a restaurant, and they were serving quite a bit of wild game, and they had cured elk. So it was basically, instead of, they have like salmon locks, it was elk locks.
Ooh, interesting.
Yes, it was so interesting. They brined it and cured it with exactly what you said. It was juniper berries, salt, and they used molasses in there.
Ooh.
And it was so good. It basically was like elk carpaccio, but you could definitely taste the juniper berries in that. It was excellent.
Yum, it sounds amazing.
It was really, really good. And, and you have some brining almost like kits that
Yeah.
are a large spice kit that is available. What kind of brines do you have in your store?
So we have three different ones that seem to consistently be our top sellers. We have one that is just our standard. It has rosemary, a little sage, white pepper, some peppercorns. That one lends itself nice with your usual suspect poultry. It's great. Of course, at Thanksgiving time, that sagey is always a good flavor. We have one that is a little more herby. It has a little lavender. It has a little lemon. It has a little bit of white, like coriander. So it has a really fresh flavor. And then the third one is a smoky one. And I love that one with so much of the different selections of game that you might want to brine. It has a little smoked paprika. It has a little orange peel. It has a little chili powder. So it has like this really good oomph of flavor.
That sounds so good. Again, anything that has that smoky flavor for me is right up my alley. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Well, if someone's interested in learning more about your spices and where to find you, Laurie, I know you have an online store, and also a beautiful physical store too. So why don't you tell us where both of those are located?
So the store is located over on Grand Avenue in St. Paul, and it's at 794 Grand Avenue. We're right down next to Hyacinth and Red Rabbit and Punch Pizza, so kind of a fun little area on the avenue. And then the website is just goldenfig.com, and it gives you a list of all of our Golden Fig products, and then it has kind of some of our easier to ship items that are available in the store as well. So.
Yes, and I will also give the tip that Laurie has a bunch of fabulous recipes on your website as well.
Yes.
Of course, using some of your spices, but your recipe profile is really quite impressive, I have to say. I was on there the other day.
Thank you.
I was like, I need to come back and recipes.
I will tell you, Laura, that smoky 3-bean chili on the website, the next time you want to make chili, make that recipe. It is so delicious. And it sounds like it's a big, meaty chili because you use 3 pounds of ground meat, but you could use bison, you could use ground elk, you could use ground anything. And it's smoky paprika and it's black beans and red beans. It's so good.
That sounds amazing. I definitely will. And also, those of you who are bakers, I'm just going to put this in there because I've had so many of your spices. The vanilla sugar from your place is amazing.
It's super good.
And the maple sugar, or the maple, what's that one?
The maple pepper.
Maple pepper. That is also so good. It's a combination of like maple syrup and pepper. I love that.
It is a really good one. And it's another one, like you could use that on walleye and just sprinkle it on and bake it. And it would make like that mapley black pepper glaze. It would be good with pheasant. It's great with squash. It's good with so many things. Yeah, the maple pepper is a really good one.
Yes. All right. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, not all spices are created equal. And if you want the freshest, most delicious spice combinations, definitely visit Laurie at her Golden Fig Fine Food Store, again, located in the Grand Avenue in St. Paul, or her website. And Laurie, thank you so much for enlightening us on the world of spices.
Oh my gosh, you're super welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. And I should also mention that we carry Laurie's spices because we love them so much at the Minnesota Bound Log Cabin at the State Fair. So, you can always find those there in the summertime, but go visit her store. Totally worth it. It has so many fun items in there. And Laurie, it's been a pleasure having you on today.
Have a great day.
Thank you. And also thank you to our sponsors, Minnesota Propane, Minnesota DNR, Connecticut Water, and Star Bank.